Today's video, we're going to talk about Google AI Max or Search AI Max feature on Google search campaigns is tomfoolery. This is absolutely a scam if there ever was one. It's a repackaged version of broad match keywords for the most part. Now, not exactly, of course. I'm going to go over exactly what this actually is doing and tell you what Google isn't telling you here. It also can make you some money if you're in the right market, but 10% or less in the markets out there, it will actually make you more money. Of which I'm going to go over the hard numbers as to how much it'll make you with the case study that I have here. But in general, I'll also be focusing on how much it's going to lose you if you are so-called dumb enough to actually fall for and drink Google's Kool-Aid and do this without your proper due diligence. So make sure you watch this video if you're at all contemplating using Search AI Max, Google's AI Max feature for your search campaigns, okay? So getting into the content here. Google has wanted PMax campaigns earlier to give you a background here and to give you reinforcement of what I'm saying and why you will believe it, if you will. PMax was the prelude of the AI Search Max. They came out with that because they're saying, oh, machine learning and AI is gonna get you much more results with your Google Ads campaigns. PMax was the start of this, and what it really did, what they did not tell you, is that it got you a bunch of junk placements. It took whatever people wanted, and then which was this, and then they took what you didn't want, they wrapped it over the stuff that you didn't want, and they were able to sell the thing nobody wanted because the stuff that was good was wrapped on top of it. So they took a gold bar, wrapped it with cat shit. And ultimately, it got you some more results on PMax, primarily because it would have your ad show up for brand searches that you didn't necessarily want to show up for. And then it was able to sell the display network placements to you that didn't convert in with the campaign. And so you got what looked like on surface level a decent return, when really it was just a mixture of brand and shitty placements. And you would have got a better return on your ad spend if you would have just ran a different campaign other than PMax. So it, uses brand to cover the fact that your campaign's not getting you conversions because it's running your ads on the display network, which nobody wants those placements, but they were able to sneak them in on you with PMax and then say, oh, it's the new revolution. It's the greatest, best thing since sliced bread. You want to use it. So the reason why I bring that up to give you wanted to give you the history there is because Search AI Max is doing the same exact essential process, if you will, or Google AI Max. It's taking what works on your campaign. It's going to load you up with brand searches because it's keywordless targeting will get you a bunch of brand searches, or should I say, in addition, competitor searches. If you're a local business, they'll load you up with competitor searches that people will click through and then call and waste your sales staff time because they think they're calling the competitor instead of you, because they don't read the ad, they don't read the landing page half the time, they just call. And your conversions go up, but your cost per qualified lead goes down itself. So Search Max is just going to do to your search campaigns what PMax did to your shopping campaigns, given that most people run PMax to run shopping campaigns itself, but to a much greater level. Now, that said, you may be saying here, ultimately, but Corey, I thought you said you like PMax for running shopping placements. I do. When you run a PMax campaign with a feed-only setup, it's the better way to run shopping placements because there is more machine learning involved, which is why Search AI Max can occasionally make you more money. However, PMax shopping placements do well because you can see what you're getting before you click, okay? So the shopping placements, you don't really pay for a click. I mean, even though you are indirectly, because if your click-through rate's low, you're going to be paying more for a click. But for the most part, they show it up your ad on Google. And if people are interested in that item based upon how it looks and the price, they'll click through. And that's what you're paying for. Whereas with search ads, you're paying for somebody to get a general gist of what you offer. Like, let's say you offer women's clothing for sale. You don't really know what kind of clothing you have. So the quality of the user you're paying for is at a way different level, so to say. I know you could target on a more defined level itself here, But when you're talking about keywordless targeting and just randomly showing up somewhere, it's very untargeted and therefore not going to get you the same return as a shopping ad showing up randomly for somebody, them seeing it and liking it. They can see what they get before they click. Hopefully that kind of makes sense what I'm trying to get across here. Text ads don't operate the same way, generally speaking. And if they did, broad match keywords that have been around forever will get you more profit than phrase match and exact match keywords already. And they don't, because unless you're showing up for the stuff that actually has a buyer, you're not going to get a return on it, generally speaking, because you're just going to waste your money on people that aren't qualified, so to say, because people don't know what you sell until they get to the other side of that ad for the most part. And going back full circle with what I was saying earlier, ultimately, the text ads, when they show up for somebody who's not qualified, because people half the time don't read the ad before clicking on it. They think what Google shows is what they want. Google can read their mind, because a lot of times they can. So they search for red socks. If your ad says blue socks, they're going to click on that ad half the time because they don't even read the ad. They just assume that whatever is presented is red socks. So with that, specifically with text ads, so if you are having your ad show up for stuff that's not relevant to what you actually think you need to show up for, which are red socks, and instead of that, you're showing up for socks as a keyword, half the people who search for socks are going to click your ad. And then if they didn't want or need red socks, you wasted that click, so to say. Essentially, Google helping you show up for more stuff than what you already show up for, it's not really useful because it's pretty obvious what you need to show up for, and you target those keywords manually. You don't need Google to expand it for you in any other way. That said, of course they can use the data about, people that have converted before, and then have your ad show up for somebody who could convert but didn't type in your keyword, such as they were looking for new dresses and they search for new pants, and that person could be a buyer of a dress that could get you a conversion. But generally speaking, that stuff doesn't work with search ads. It doesn't work like a billboard like you think, because they can't see what's on the other side of that ad before they click on it, and just generates too much waste, is the easiest way I can describe this. So with that said, there's more machine learning involved when you get Google AI Max or Search AI Max. And they're going to use the data, just like with PMax, the data about who buys, who doesn't buy. They're going to use data from Google Analytics to get you more customers than you would get otherwise with your search ads. If you're in a market where showing up for somebody who's not looking for the exact thing that you're trying to target, they could be a customer at a decently high rate. Credit repair is just one market that Google doesn't allow directly, by the way, that we had Google used this additional machine learning to get us more results. And I'm going to talk about that in the case study here. But for your average everyday market, like a lawyer, cleaning service, it's not going to get you more, because unless they're looking for a lawyer or cleaning service, they're not buying. It doesn't work the same way as somebody looking for an item on, a clothing item, where you can cross market them and, hey, they were looking at this item and now they're looking at this item, they're willing to buy it and they see it and they want it. Broad match is included also standard itself in with AI search or Search AI Max or Google AI Max itself. With that said, broad match keywords, I've railed against those for years. They still suck, for 95% of brands, because they show up they get you to show up for random stuff that has nothing to do with what you're doing. And a lot of guys will say, well, machine learning is going to get you the customers you want anyway, without having to try and without having to even know what your keywords are. Just put a few in broad match and you're done. If you're in a non-competitive market, you might be able to get by with that. But generally speaking, again, if you don't show up for the exact right things that you want to show up for, it's a waste of money, as I talked about. So why would you want broad match keywords? It doesn't help you do anything, because you can't just simply, when they search for this, you show up for this and you get the sale. It doesn't really work like that, because they click and they waste your money and find out what you offer on the site isn't what they want, so to say, ultimately. Keyword expansion is included with the Search AI Max or Google AI Max. Same as it's basically the same thing as broad match. So they got this fancy language to make it sound different than what broad match keywords are. Keywordless targeting, it's the future. It uses AI. Okay, it's just broad match at the end of the day, because that's what broad match has always done. itself isn't anything different per se, unless you consider they're going to use this and look at your customer data and the trends in your customer data to understand who is a buyer. So if a person, they see somebody who buys typically 80% of the time goes to this particular website before they buy, well, they can have your ad show up for somebody who's been to that website before, even though they're searching for something different. And then that would be where your keyword list targeting comes into play. But respectively, it's basically the same thing as broad match, because broad match basically was kind of doing the same thing. And then DSA, it has a DSA type feature. So dynamic search campaigns, what they do there, instead of your standard search campaign where you decide the ad and the landing page, they decide the ad and you give them a list of landing pages to pick from to send the user to, but they decide the landing page as well. So it's fully dynamic. We use this in e-commerce for large e-commerce brands semi-often, which is the only application where we use it because it's the only one where it makes more money. In that case, with the Search AI Max, they essentially have this dynamic ad creative and then also a final URL expansion that'll do those same things for your search campaign. So really if you want to sum this up, Google, what they've done is with Search AI Max is they've combined broad match keywords, what they've always done, with DSA campaigns and they've always done, sprinkle in a little machine learning addition on the top and made it a new product itself, which I don't know why they just didn't say we're going to use more AI machine learning itself. I know why they didn't do that. They want to be able to pick your pocket more. They want you to show up for crap that they can't sell to anybody else and call it a new thing that's great. And just because everybody trusts Google, they'll go for it. But generally speaking, like I mentioned, DSA itself is only dynamically generated ad copy, and letting Google handpick the page that the user is going to be sent to is only good for e-commerce brands that are larger, because if they're searching for a half-inch bull by XYZ brand, it's hard to have a unique ad that you create for each one of those products. You have thousands. So the DSA can basically take the exact verbiage that the user types in, which matches the landing page on your website, realize, hey, all we got to do is just put what they typed in the ad and send them to this page that has that verbiage on there, and we'll get a conversion. And so that is where we use it, even though you're still going to do better for those searches having a handwritten ad and a hand-picked landing page for that term. So what we'll do at our agency is we'll run DSA, generate conversions, find the conversions that convert. Then we'll write, and through a separate campaign, do a regular search campaign and write a handwritten ad and handpick the landing page for that term that's working, because it'll get a higher click-through rate and a higher conversion rate that way as a whole, given that we can use our intelligence to understand what is likely the perfect thing that they would want to see versus randomly letting Google pick it, if you will. Outside of that, and it's absolute death for a search campaign, because for a search campaign, if somebody types in free roofing, your ad's going to say free roofing on it with dynamically generated ad copy. So why the hell would you want that? It doesn't make sense. So for e-commerce is the only place that makes sense. And even then, unless you have so many items to where you can't write unique ad copy for each keyword, it also doesn't make sense, so to say. So that is the features of Search AI Max or Google AI Max. What makes it different? What's useful, which is the additional machine learning. What's not useful, which is basically everything else about it. Okay? This is mostly a money grab for Google. Of course, no surprise. And I guarantee this trend's going to continue. They're going to have AI Max for display, AI Max for demand gen. They're just going to add more and more automation to everything. Why? Because they're at a point where they can't charge anymore for clicks. I mean, they kind of can. They're still figuring out how to charge more by understanding who buys and who doesn't buy, and the people that do buy, charging more for those people and doing all kinds of optimization there. But for the most part, they're at a roof of what they can charge. People, if they charge them more, the advertisers are going to drop off. They've hit a roof on it. To make more money, they've got to be able to hopefully use AI to optimize, like I said before, and find out what people are worth, that necessarily to where they can auction those insights out, but more so take stuff that nobody wants and sell it. And more so going that direction versus the other. And if you are going to do Search AI Max, please do it in a new campaign, because it's going to perform so much differently. than what you're currently getting with your campaign, you want to do that. And unpredictably, or very likely to be unpredictable, where, you know, you thought you're getting great leads now, you start doing it, all of a sudden your lead quality is like crazy crappy. And then that'll throw, you know, if you undo it, it's going to throw your campaign into learning mode. And it might be a month before it gets back to where it was originally. So do the testing in a new campaign, which it defeats the purpose of it in the first place. The whole purpose of this is for Google to allow their users to not have to do anything, to spend more money, which they want them to spend, and to sell and buy the shitty ad traffic that they want them to buy. Because all you got to do is flip one switch and then boom, broad match is turned on. And you're now spending more money, ultimately. That's the purpose of it. So, and knowing what their motivations truly are, now you understand why you don't want to do this on your active campaign that's already running smoothly as is. And if it's not running smoothly, you need to get your campaign set up with proper foundation under it. You know, namely setting up unique, exact match keywords if you're not making money yet, unique ad copy for keywords, getting that working first before you even touch this, because this is not going to make it any easier to make money. It's an icing on the cake strategy that you can use once you've plateaued your results with exact match and then phrase match. And then if you still can't grow your sales anymore because you got the highest click-through rate possible, the best landing page with the best conversion rate possible, then maybe you can do this as a last stage in a separate campaign by itself. Why? Because it's going to perform so wildly different than what you've got already that you want to keep tight reins on it, to where if you're spending 100 a day on this other campaign that doesn't have Search AI Max, you do $10 a day on this other one that does. And yes, it could not convert for well and make money for 6-12 months, but that's fine. You're just going to let it run and hopefully figure out how to get you more customers. That's the way to handle it responsibly. So your current profitability of your account as a whole does not go negative while you're testing this out and breaking it in as a new strategy. So that is Search AI Max. Now, what is this good for? As I mentioned, lead generation markets specifically, and where you're in a generic niche. That is a niche where 1% of the population or more could buy. The reason why I say those two things is real simple. Number one, for e-commerce, it doesn't make any sense, because if I'm going to run a dynamic ad copy and landing page, I'm just going to run a regular DSA campaign already. I'm going to go that route first, because if that's what I want, that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have a separate campaign dedicated to it. You'll end up with better results because it has all the proper controls to do that right, versus with Search AI Max, you don't have all those controls, so to say. They've taken them away. You can't, for instance, just decide that I want to run just this select grouping of landing pages, not these over here. You can do that with regular DSA campaigns. So that's number one. And then number two, a generic niche, because if you're in a very small niche where like you're selling fireproof paint, okay, there's only a small niche list of buyers that are buying that, then in that case, you don't want to just randomly have your ad show all over the place to try to find people that are also interested in that. Unless they're typing in very specific things, you can't really monetize that user. So in that case, but if you're doing something like weight loss products, which 30% of the population's obese and 60% overweight, pretty much your ad doesn't need any targeting, practically speaking. I mean, it does, but technically anybody's a customer almost. So that could show up for somebody that Google knows matches a certain demographic, certain age, a certain psychographic traits, and could be wooed to buy, even though they didn't type in weight loss tea, which actually describes your product. So in that case, Search AI Max could actually make you more incremental revenue. Okay, so those are the situations where I could and would use it. Before I get into the case study here, the credit repair company that we work with, where it did actually increase incremental revenue significantly, to give you an example where this can work, to leave you on a positive note here. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should. I have all the best information on how to make more money with ads, given to you by somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm on dozens of ad accounts, to give you the latest and greatest stuff, what works from an actual practitioner in the weeds doing the work. Most of the stuff you see online about ad management is given to you by people that are showmen. They're not managing any ads themselves, or not very many. So therefore, you should subscribe. So go ahead and do it if you haven't already. You also should check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. You can find the strategies that I use to guarantee our clients' results, literally speaking, on that blog where I map them out with screenshots, with everything else you need to use them. So you should definitely check that out as well. Beyond that, if you have any questions for me about anything I'm covering here about Search AI Max, you can leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. You also can reach out to me via my Discord group. I'm in there answering questions. You can find the link to that in the video description. A bunch of guys that follow the channel and gals are in there answering questions as well. You can learn a lot there from the other people that follow the channel, which are, we got a very smart crowd as well. And also you can reach out to me if you want a private conversation. You can do a call with me. Reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com for us to set up a private phone conversation, coaching session, and I'll go over anything that you want to go over in a 30 or 60-minute call. I do this with agency owners and in non-agencies alike, by the way. The main thing that I do day to day, though, is I manage clients' accounts, and we do done-for-you services with your ads. We build ads, we build landing pages, we do tracking setups, we test all this stuff so you know before we do it for you if it works or not. And see, that's the main benefit to you going with us, because we manage a lot of accounts, and I do all the ad strategy myself on our client accounts. With that, we're able to guarantee our clients results, because I got 20 years of experience doing this now, and to the point where we do not charge a client a management fee until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability or profitability in general. If you're interested in working with us at that level, reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. I'll get you not only some strategies that are going to work, but a projection that shows you just how much those strategies will work. And we don't even charge for that. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com and I'll certainly get it for you. I also have ad templates available. If you're in a niche market that we've already been in already, I can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your niche market. And basically you copy paste those into your ad account. You're going to get the same results we did in a different city or country that we're in. So if you want to shortcut your way to success, that's an easy way to do it. We've been in over 100 different niche markets and have hundreds of templates as a result. So chances are quite high we've got the template you're looking for and could use it for your business or a business that you're looking to start, which it's like having a business in a box, essentially, once you have these templates. So with that said, the case study at hand here, all right, is in the credit repair space. So very simply, what I could tell you is in terms of the qualified leads per month that this company had, which just to tell you a quick background about this space, Google doesn't technically allow credit repair as a niche to advertise. So what you actually need to do is you need to, in an indirect way, advertise to people who want credit repair, which Google, of course, doesn't offer this or let you do it anymore because there's some bastards out there that are scamming people, and so they just cut it off as a category as a whole. They've done this in several categories, and that's, they say there's too many bad actors, we're just not going to let anybody. So what do you do in this space to get good leads? Well, you advertise on Google for stuff not necessarily related to credit repair itself as a service, but how to repair credit, what is my credit score, all this type of stuff, and go that route with it. And then you do a generic landing page. Well, this is a perfect scenario for Search AI Max. How you can get more results with a market like this, or a market in general, like I was saying with weight loss, where anybody should be taking this tea. I don't care who it is. And you can, incrementally increase your revenue that way. Well, anyway, with this market, I consulted this guy. I didn't work with him actively long-term, but he in and itself recently turned on Search AI Max, and he went from 70 qualified leads a month, practically speaking, this was in the US, to over 150 a month just turning on this feature. So as much as I trashed and shit on, crapped all over Search AI Max, it actually can make you a lot more money if you are in the right market, a lead generation market with, it's fairly mainstream. That's 1% or more of the population could buy. And then the algorithm's going to then at that point in time, again, dip into the, what makes your customers unique, not necessarily what they search for, going beyond keywords, but just what makes them unique. What websites do they visit? Again, if you have a phone in your pocket and you have a Google app on there, they're listening to you. They know what you say. They're doing all this stuff. They know what websites you visit. They know what you've bought in the past because they got access to that data through Google Analytics and so forth. They buy data from third-party companies. They know a lot on all their users. They have tens of thousands of data points, at least, if not hundreds of thousands, on each user that uses Google in a database somewhere. And they're able to use that data to correlate and find out what most commonly comes up when somebody buys versus they don't buy. And then with that, they don't anymore necessarily need to know what you type in to know if they, somebody's searching for what is a credit score. That's a keyword that you didn't target, but you didn't need to target it because the system knew they had the 15 traits that make a grand slam prospect. Let's have the ad show up for them too. And then that's where you actually are going to capitalize on this. So as much as I talk shit about this, what they're trying to do is sell it to the masses as a panacea. It works for everybody. It's amazing. When really there's just a small use case for it. And the same thing happens with PMax, by the way. With PMax, they want you to run it with no tracking of your leads and get you a bunch of junk, shitty leads. Anybody who's ran PMax for lead generation will tell you. When reality is, you run it and only you have to track whether your lead's qualified, pipe that back into your ad account if you're going to use PMax. Otherwise, you're going to get junky leads from it, mostly. And that's the actual use case. So there's a use case within the use case, but they just say, hey, everybody should use it. They don't want to overcomplicate it because, again, the end purpose of it is to get you to waste more of your money. They need a way every quarter to raise the revenue of their company to keep shareholders happy. This is just the latest version of it. And I know a lot of you guys probably think I'm crazy for talking shit about Google on their own platform here. But hey, that's what I do here. That's what I'm here for. People, there's other channels that'll blow smoke up your ass. That's not what I'm doing on this channel. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching as usual, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.